and welcome to Plus Talk on Plus Life, where we're all about turning positive into a plus. And my guest today is a man who recently spoke publicly about his HIV status, and I'm curious to see whether his positive status is now a plus. Aaron Johnson-Levy, good to see you.
Hi, Carl. Great to be here.
Thanks for doing this. I should say you are the executive producer of The House on Fox Soul. Tell us a bit more about that real quick.
Yes, The House on Fox. So we just completed our second season, and it is a Black LGBTQ plus talk show produced by Jimmy Kimmel Live's co-executive producer Doug DeLuca. We have a great team, Hollywood veterans. They've been producing TV for many years. We have a great production. It's been a ride. It's
well, congratulations. And I know that sort of as you were just recently, you decided very publicly, like I once did, to share your HIV status. Where did that come from and why now?
Well, I was supposed to do it earlier in the season. We had an episode with kind of an advocate, a known person in the field, and I wanted to do it with that guest, but I guess chickened out. There was some tension in that episode, some conflict, and I didn't want to do something so, I don't know the word, just so transparent, so vulnerable, so sensitive in an atmosphere of contention, and so I chose not to do it. And then we got to the last episode, shooting the finale, and I still didn't know if I would do it. So I brought my pillbox and had it, on me for the last episode. And I said, if the mood strikes, then I will take my pillbox out like I'm going to do now. Today is Monday. And I just simply, that's how I do it. I just do a little pop, pop it in, and that's all it takes, and a lot of people don't know that. I didn't know that. I had no idea. I was one of these people completely in the dark about HIV. I kind of regret saying that I was so ignorant, but, I was just ruled by fear of the virus itself, what it would do to my body. And then probably even more so afraid of how people would respond to me and treat me differently. So, that's why I think that I'm so eager to show people just how simple it is to manage this virus that a lot of us are terrified about.
Yeah, I mean, I've said many times that it's easier than managing diabetes, that's for sure. But we don't treat people with diabetes the way we treat people with HIV. At what point did you realize, did you come to terms with this, that you went, that's what this is? You said, you were ignorant about it and you were scared about it and you thought people would treat you differently. So what was the change?
I just went out on a limb. I had not told anyone, so I had known for maybe a couple months when we were filming, and I told maybe one person. And I said, this is an opportunity. Oh, I'm getting emotional. I did not expect that. But, I did not want to regret having an opportunity to affect someone's life in a positive way, to show at least one person that virus that you used to be afraid of and terrified of. Guess what? It's not as scary as it used to be. And if I could affect one person, I said I have to do it, and even if it comes at a cost. I'm not on the best terms with my family. They have never disclosed to them, and I think they may have seen the show. I don't know. I don't really talk to them, but I did not want to miss out on an opportunity.
Yeah, and Aaron, you say that if you can affect one person's life and show that person, but how has this process affected your life?
Well, I was watching some of your videos, and I think that the response that we got was very similar. I did not expect kind of the outpouring of support that I got, particularly after that episode. Almost every comment that I got was encouraging. You've inspired me. Thank you. Just a whole array of compliments that I had not received prior to that. So that was the most unexpected part of disclosing my HIV status, was the level of support.
So you mentioned, so I guess you sort of would not you were diagnosed not that long ago, really, then in the grand scheme of things.
Correct. Yeah. Everything I contracted and diagnosed in 2020.
Wow. And then the pandemic.
Um,
Well done, you. And
yeah,
that's going to
yeah,
be
yeah.
tough. That's going to be tough. I want to ask about that actually, because, you know, newly diagnosed, frightened, and then we have this pandemic where we're all suddenly made to shut ourselves in and isolate. So, how do you process an HIV diagnosis? And then all of a sudden, the world and the walls close in, and I mean, one feels isolated, I think, as you mentioned, when we find out we're HIV positive, even when the world is open. It's got to be
Mhm.
compounded so much more when the world shuts down. How did you process it?
Well, by the time I got my diagnosis, it was in December. It was in the end of 2020, and so I I was used to the pandemic. In fact, I think we were starting to move out slowly out of the pandemic. So the pandemic wasn't as much of a concern to me. It was getting getting that diagnosis, which I got because of a partner telling me that he had tested for positive for syphilis, and I should go get tested. And so I went and got tested for that. And they asked me, or they said, we'll give you an HIV test as well. And I always would say no. And the reason is I would get my STD screenings every 2 weeks. I used to go to, there was a bathhouse in LA, because I used to live in LA, in the valley, called Roman Holiday, I believe. And it was near where I was living.
Oh, how
And
exotic.
so, but they did testing there on certain days of the week. And so I would always go on those days and make sure I'm getting, screened every couple weeks. But I would always decline the HIV test. And the reason is I didn't want to know. I did not want, I know about the criminalization laws. I know that my life would change if I get a positive diagnosis. And so I just wanted to avoid it as long as I could. And then maybe I would tell myself sometime down the road, when I can live alone and not have coworkers or neighbors, or just when I can be all alone, then I'll get my test and then I'll manage the results. But they went ahead and, well, this time they said that we have to give you the HIV test in order to give you the syphilis test, which is probably not true. But they went ahead, did it. I got the result. I did not expect it. Uh, and really, the nightmare scenario kind of happened where the tester will disclose your status to someone else. Maybe in smaller cities, this might be a fear. A fear of getting tested, because whoever does the testing can call someone. And that's exactly what happened with me. So I got a text message from a former friend within an hour of getting my result, saying, "You're a whore." And I was so like, I mean, that message alone would have sent me over the edge. Um, if I were already fragile, I wasn't, in a fragile state when I got the diagnosis. But so I was just like, I was able to not be affected by that text. But it gave me the experience, so I know what other people could experience, and I know what other people are afraid of, and I know that fear is not unfounded. People are people. People behave unprofessionally. Things happen, and
I'm
so
I'm I'm mortified for you, and I'm so sorry that you had that despicable experience. I mean, that's I rarely am I speechless, but I'm speechless from that. So we know that HIV is on the rise in Black and brown communities in this country, and we know that there is not equality when it comes to healthcare in this country. I use the word care rather loosely. What do you want to say to those black and brown boys and girls out there who, like you, were sticking their head in the sand going, I just don't want to know?
Whew. That's a tough one, and I'll tell you why. One thing I never ever want to be is a hypocrite. I never want to be the person that I used to despise. So I always, and I'm kind of new to this field, but what I bring to this field, I think, is a high level of compassion and empathy, and that's because I'm committed to that. I'm committed to understanding why someone may be afraid of getting tested, afraid of the stigma, the fear. I know it so well. So I'm not going to say, you're wrong for thinking that way, because I despise when people told me I was wrong. When people would say, know your status, I would say, how about you know your status? Don't invite me into a life of discrimination. That was the way I used to think. So if you want to get me to get tested, go talk to all the people who stigmatize those living with HIV. Go talk to people who treat people differently in employment and housing and daily interaction. Go talk to them. When they get their mind set that this is not something that people need to be mistreated for, then I'm going to be so comfortable getting tested, because there's that deterrent is gone. But telling me to get tested without affecting the deterrence doesn't seem fair to me. A lot of times I feel like these people are just doing a job. They have a quota to fill. They need to get X amount of tests per day, and how many positives did you get? I never, ever, ever want to be that person. So I just want to let people know, my experience is I was terrified of HIV for many years. And now I know that it is not that scary at all. That is old thinking. And that's really, that's the message. The fear is no longer justified. And that's it. And I'm not going to tell people what to do. I want that fear to go down, and then I'll let them decide what to do at that point.
Well, and us using our voices and sharing our stories and preaching the word of things like undetectable equals untransmittable, and just living our truth and being really honest and being really approachable, I hope, that people can maybe see a little bit of themselves or hear a little bit of themselves in us. Aaron Johnson Levy, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real treat chatting to you, and I'm proud of you, and I thank you for all the great work you are doing, and by living your truth will continue to do.
Thank you so much.
That's going to do it for this episode of Plus Talk. If you want more info on Aaron's story, check out our website, pluslifemedia.com. And remember, you can follow us across social media platforms. We are at Plus Life Media. Until next time, be nice to one another. It doesn't take much. We'll see you soon.